Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Leila, the Lenormand reader, and I am one of the few people who focuses almost exclusively on the Lenormand practice. So be sure to have a look at all of the links that I have for you, discover the website and all of the good stuff that I have on there to master this amazing deck. So welcome to a new tutorial. In this tutorial, I want to tell you about how I do Lenormand readings on the go. So if I do not have a big table, even a small table where I can do layouts like lines and portraits, mini tableaus and even grand tableaus, I have a few methods that I like to use to answer questions with a deck when I don't have the luxury of space. So I'm going to share with you 3 methods, 2 short ones and a longer one. So let's go right ahead. Let me tell you about my first method. My first method is very simply to draw a pair. Obviously, I can't shuffle in a messy pile kind of way where you just put the cards on the table and you sort of you shuffle them around like this. Messy pile is my favorite way to shuffle, but obviously if I don't have the luxury of space, I would do a quick hand over hand a few times and make sure that my deck doesn't carry a bias from a previous reading. So I shuffle the deck hand over hand, and then I want a pair of cards, and the way I do it is I cut the deck and I do this. So I take the cut and the bottom card and I read these 2 cards as a pair. Very straightforward. Of course, you can take them off the top. That is fine. My habit is connected with the shuffling, if you like. I shuffle hand over hand, I cut, and I read the pair. So let's go ahead and try a question. Let's ask if X is going to get in touch, and let's draw a pair and see what the answer is. So shuffled, cut. Now that's a very good answer, very clear. The rider is a messenger card. The house can represent any space or place. And obviously there's going to be news. So it's like the messenger is delivering news to the house. Obviously this means I'm going to hear from this person. They're going to reach out, if you like. The rider and house I often also take to mean a visitor. So if contact or the communication with this person involves a meeting, then it can also take place as well. So obviously a very straightforward answer and a positive answer to my question. So that's for the first method. What about the second method? The second method I use is to draw a triplet. And this is also very straightforward. Again, I do a quick hand over hand. And the way I draw the triplet is I turn over the top card and then I take the bottom 2. So that's how I do it. It's my habit. I don't know how I developed this habit, but I think it's kind of cool. And I look primarily at the first card, and then I get additional detail from the bottom 2. So let's try with the same question if X is going to get in touch. Shuffling, hand over hand. And let's draw my triplet in this funny way. I turn over the first card and then the bottom 2. Now this is an interesting reading because the top card is challenging, but the bottom 2 cards are actually very supportive. So I would say I could hear from this person, but it sounds like there's a bit of an obstacle at first. Maybe this affects the delay, it represents the delay, and then eventually there's going to be contact. So this is the very simple way I would do a reading. I do the reading in my hands. So I do the pair and then this triplet. Obviously you can draw a card or 2 or 3 off the top of the deck. So you could draw your pair, or you could draw very simply your triplet. And then you start, you might develop your personal habits with these, with the way you handle the deck. You might take, for example, you might cut, you might take this card and this card, or the bottom card with the bottom card like I do from the cut, or any other way. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that the deck is shuffled so that the principle of randomness is respected. So a pair and a triplet. Now, before I move on to the longer spread that I do when I'm on the go, I want to tell you that with the pair and triplet, what's so fun about them is that you can build a story. You can answer a series of questions by picking a triplet or a pair every time you answer part of the question. So for example, if the question was, like we said, will X get in touch? And I draw a pair, okay? It sounds like yes. Answering the question very directly, I will hear from X. And that's all there is to it. You know, we have the clouds and the sun shining over the clouds telling us that, yeah, you know, they were away, but now we're going to finally hear. So what next? Well, we can build on the question. We can say, okay, so X is going to get in touch. Will they relay the good news? So you do another hand over hand shuffling, and then you draw the next pair. Will I? So we found out that X is going to get in touch. Now the question is, will they share the good news? What will be their answer? So another double or pair cutting. Wow, very positive. So obviously answering my wish. And quite interestingly, it has to do with finances, like I said. And so with the star, it answers a wish. So clearly the way forward, once X contacts me, is going to be aligned with what I want. So you see, you can layer the question and answer parts of it as you go, building on the previous reading. And you can do this with shorter spreads. And I think it's better to do them with shorter spreads because every time you answer in a very specific way. And obviously you can use the triplet to do the same thing. So we started with if X was going to get in touch. So I turn over the first card and then the other two. And that sounds like a yes. You know, the house is getting together with someone. The fish and heart is a happiness and wish fulfillment. We can take this as a straightforward yes. Okay, moving on to the next part of the question. Shuffling again. We want to ask next, if once X contacts me, what will X relay? Will it be the news that I want to hear? What will be the answer? So again, shuffling hand over hand, turning over the top card and the bottom two. So here again, answering to the news question, and obviously the clover being a very lucky card or one of the best cards really, it's going to go exactly as I want. The letter with the garden here can point to documents, paperwork, and other such things. Actually, this would be quite relevant to the question that I have in mind. So you see how we can build the different parts of a question. We can sort of, you know, dig deeper into something by doing quick, small questions. And I find that it's really amenable with these on-the-go kind of layouts. So let me know how you like this approach. Let me know if you do it in other ways. The third method that I want to share with you is the longer method. So this is where I want a storyline as opposed to a quick answer like a pair or a triplet. Now, obviously, if I don't have the luxury of space, I can't get many stories from my Tableau layouts. So here's what I do. I shuffle the cards, of course, as much as possible. Try to avoid any bias from previous readings. And then I cut. I tend to cut any number of times. I don't have superstitions about these methods. What matters is the principle of randomness. So you can do what you like. So I like to cut a few times, just part of shuffling. And then here's what I do. I turn over the deck and I read a story. So I go card after card after card. And then I read a long sentence through the cards. Now, I don't always go to card 36. Like, I don't draw one whole big line from the deck. What I do is I feel it out. I try to get a sense of when the answer sort of lands on me or how I feel the story wraps up, and I sort of stop there. You know, and so I go with how I feel every time. I play it by ear. I don't have a set number of cards that I look at to read this line, and I don't, like, it's rare that I do a full 36 line. So that is my longer kind of reading when I'm on the go. So let's go ahead and see if we can answer sort of the same question with a longer line. Let's see if person X is going to call me, and then what's going to happen, or what's going to be the outcome of our communication. So shuffling the deck, and then I cut a few times or once or whatever I feel like doing on the moment. And then I turn over the deck and I read the line starting with this house. So the house, heart, and fox. Okay, so the first 4 cards are looking positive. The fox is a bit tricky, but you know, it can be just a reference to this person. It's also someone who is who's a bit of an agent, you know, like, and the fox is very much associated with these kinds of people, like agents and tellers and accountants, and you know, the people you sort of work with to get help with these things. And so actually this is a good representation of this person. The heart and flowers are good. The anchor is a positive conclusion, and I'm very happy to see the child. Because I am looking at starting something with the help of this person, and it looks like, especially with the anchor before it and you know the flowers, is it? Yeah, the flowers before it is looking positive. So it looks like it's going to lead to this new beginning. The book sounds like there are some unknown things. The whip and stork, I can imagine what that is. It involves work. You know, I have to I'm probably going to have to run around and get some paperwork done. And remember, in the triplet, we saw the letter, and I was telling you that it involves paperwork. So again, with the book, there can be some more information that is needed, or there can be some misinformation that needs to be rectified. And the stork is going to keep me busy a little bit with this, especially with the whip. But then the sun is a lovely outcome. So the good news, again, answering. And look, we have the 3 cards that we drew earlier. You see, so this would be bias, you know, so the deck would have to have been better shuffled. I'm going to show you what I do for this in just a bit. But let's assume that the principle of randomness was respected. We can continue with our story, and it looks like there is good news, so, and a positive conclusion. And I would say this is involvement, you know, with this place that I'm starting this thing in. And so it sounds like the book and whip, they bring a few hurdles, but it sounds like these are resolved with a positive conclusion. Really nice to see the fish on the other side of the clover, because like I said, it's, you know, it's connected to a financial element. The ring and moon is this acceptance that I'm after, and I'm happy to see the key. So, you know, I sort of can stop here. Look, here's the guy again. I can sort of stop here because I sort of got my answer. You know, it sort of unraveled in a way that landed and made sense to me. So that's what I mean by doing a line, starting with this, you know, a bit of a shuffling here, and then cutting a few times if you like, and then reading a story starting from the bottom. Now, you might like to start from the top, you know, so you shuffle your deck, and you might take each card in turn. I just find that it's easier to handle from the back, because when you do the top, you have to, you know, like you have to put this somewhere, and then you have to keep the order of the cards, and every time you're sort of turning them over, so it becomes a little bit inconvenient. So I prefer to just read from the bottom, and it doesn't matter, because as long as it is properly shuffled and the principle of randomness is respected, it is, you know, we're good to go. I don't believe that you know, the cutting or you know, knocking and things like that. I don't really believe in these things. I think these are more on the superstitious side of the practice. I think the key is really the principle of randomness when it comes to divination. So that's my take on this. Now, I wanted to say quickly before we wrap up that, you know, we picked up the letter, garden, and clover, and I told you it looks like here we have bias from a previous reading. Here they are. So what you can do to avoid this, and you don't have space to shuffle a messy pile shuffle, is that suppose you drew, let's say these 2 pairs, or these 2 cards in a pair, and you know, you don't want to immediately do a hand over hand, sort of take it out and put it randomly in another spot, and then take out this one and put it randomly in another spot, and then shuffle again. That way you are more likely to release this reading and have a properly shuffled deck again. And if you had, these triplets, and you drew these two, you do the same thing. Sort of take the top one, stick it somewhere in the deck, take the next two randomly in the deck, and then shuffle hand over hand again because you don't have enough space. Now this is a bit trickier if you're going to do one long line because you have so many more that you need to, sort of take from the beginning of the line and put them in here. So you might do this a few times to shuffle the deck. And obviously this is where it makes sense to have a messy pile shuffle. You might like to carry a couple of decks with you when you travel, just sort of, people like to use different imagery, they might use different decks for different things, and then you can sort of have properly shuffled decks on hand. And, if you're not able to messy pile shuffle them while you're on the go, you can sort of pick up your other deck, and then when you land back on your table, you can sort of reshuffle everything and reset the randomness of your deck properly. So I hope you've enjoyed these ideas. Let me know your thoughts about my approaches to doing readings on the go. And I'd really love to know what you do when you're on the go and you don't have a big table. How do you do your Lenormand readings? So leave me a comment down there. I look forward to reading them. And as always, thank you for watching. And until next time, take very good care of yourself.